Hey, Danny, how are you?
Hey, Alicia. Hey, Trigger Happy fam. We are here with another episode, and it's just Alicia and I. We know you guys love that. So, we want to sprinkle a little something in because we realize that as much as we talk about vulnerability with y'all, we haven't actually ever had an entire episode dedicated to being insecure or having insecurities. So we thought with everything going on in the world, with a whole new year upon us, with all the things happening, now was a great time to just have a moment where we can relate and we can talk and we can really just let you guys know some of our own personal struggles and some of the things that we've worked through in hopes to help you do the same.
Absolutely, absolutely. This conversation is one that truly is near and dear to my heart, especially because when people see you, whether it's online or on stages or operating in your very real zone of genius, there's this automatic thing where people feel like you don't have any insecurities, or everything is always gravy, or there's nothing that you either struggle through or work through. And it's like, nah, let me go ahead and pull this curtain so y'all could see behind it. Like, we have very real insecurities just like everyone else. The difference is acknowledging and understanding that, hey, this is an area in my life where I do have, some more work to do, but it does not mean it blocks or stops any and everything that's happening. So I'm really, really excited about this combo.
Yeah, and it's about the insecurity not being crippling and the difference between being an insecure person and being a person that has insecurities. It's two very different things. I saw this post the other day online where the person was saying that they don't like that they have to feel bad about having a great life. And sometimes we all, like, people will tell themselves, oh, like, that's not their real life. They're just putting on for Instagram. And she's like, no, I'm not. Like, this is really my life.
I
So
love
it was an insecurity of hers to be able to kind of show that and be proud to have, and it was interesting. And it's something that I've been thinking about since she said it, because I never thought about even that being an insecurity, like shining your light and stepping into your full power and purpose can make people feel insecure because of the expectations that get put on you and people saying stuff like, oh, well, that's not your real life, you just putting on for the gram, right? Like, those are
right.
things that happen. So insecurities can come up and show up in a lot of different ways. We all handle our insecurities different. Sometimes we have insecurities that we don't even realize are operating in our lives.
Yep.
So we'll kind of give you some of ours and some of the things that we struggle or have struggled with, so that maybe you can see if that resonates with you or if it's something that you also need to work on. Because the main thing is not to let your insecurities rule and control and debilitate you. That is the main problem. We all have them, but some of us are wallowing in insecure waters at all times.
Yes, yes. And we don't want to wallow. There were two sides of that coin that Danny gave earlier. It's to be a person who is insecure or to be a person who has insecurities. You always want to acknowledge that 9 times out of 10, you will be the latter in some area of your life, and that is okay. But like Danny was saying, that wallowing, that to where you have just taken on, it is now a coat of armor for you.
Part of your personality.
Yeah, like you just decided, like, yo, this is just what it is, this is what we're doing. And it's like, you don't want to be there, you don't want to be in that place and space, because what happens is as you start to move about the world, you become kind of like a bleeding fish in shark infested water,
Mm.
where those who are looking for the meat that you got, they gonna come find you, because as you're swimming along doing all the things, you're leaving behind a trail of insecurities. And it is like a beacon to folks who like to prey on people who are insecure. You become a beacon of light, and they just come to you and they overtake you. It's a thing.
And they take advantage of you knowing that you have those insecurities.
Absolutely.
That's a very good way of putting it, because sometimes we don't realize that we're attracting a certain energy because of that. Like, we're attracting a certain mates, certain friends that are really just preying on us as opposed to really trying to partner with us. So that's a really important thing for people to kind of realize, that hey, why are all these people attracted to me? Is there some, am I bleeding in the water? Wow, that's really special. Okay, so let's dive in because this is we here for, what do you always say? We here for a good time, not a
Good
long time.
time, not a long time.
So, what would you say are some of your major insecurities? Like some of the things that come up the most, the things that you've talked about in therapy. Like, what are the insecurities that are present, or when they were present, they were really in the driver's seat?
Oh man. I think the biggest one for me, it was a double-edged insecurity in that on one side of the coin, I felt that I wasn't enough. And then on the very other side of the coin, I thought that I was too much. And so when you're moving about the world thinking as though you're not enough, but you're also too much, it's a very confusing experience because it's situational. So in relationships, I always felt that I was too much. And then just in life, in business, even though I was good, I felt like I wasn't enough. And so that constant inadequate energy that I would put out into the world would cause me to be connected to opportunities that did not fulfill me, that I would choose because that's the only energy that I knew, and then to relationships where people would literally tell me, hey, this is too much for me. I need you to kind of bring it down, so that I can actually be with you, or so that we could be together. And moving about, because that was a major insecurity for me when I decided that, you know what, it really is a butter for every bread. The people who fuck with me gonna fuck with me. The people who don't aren't, and I'm gonna be okay with that either way. I started to receive different types of opportunities. I started to receive, honestly, different types of relationships, and dating experiences that I would get in, because I no longer felt like I was in a constant state of inadequacy. It became to where, you know what, I'm good. I'm good.
Does it ever still come up sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm now in a new experience, and this is something that's very different for me. And we had gotten into a disagreement, because I don't like to argue, but we had definitely gotten into a disagreement where I immediately was just like, hey, this doesn't work for me, da 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 da. And I'm like, I'm sending what I tell people not to do. I sent this paragraph of all the things and what I was pissed about. And so in my mind, I immediately thought, okay, I am too much. This is now over. And his response was, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. There's a lot of emotion that's in this. So let's give ourselves a moment to breathe through this. And then we're going to come back and have a conversation about it, because I want to make sure I'm hearing you and you're hearing me. And we're not saying things to hurt the other person. And I was just like, oh, because in my mind, I thought that because we've had this disagreement and because of my response to it, I am too much. It is over. It is finished. And he was just like, no, like, we just gonna breathe real quick. We'll come back. And so it comes up every once in a while to where I feel like, okay, being who I am means I won't be accepted. So I'm gonna just have to try and burn it up before they come in and finish things with me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So you like self-sabotage
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
before they leave because you're too much in your head.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's a big one for me. What about you? Like, what's a major one that?
I don't have enough time in this episode to talk about all my insecurities. I have so many. And I feel like people don't ever believe that about me, but it's like, oh, they're there for sure. I mean, I don't know who doesn't have them. It's just like I said, some of us just use them and they just affect us differently. It's like an illness, like, or like an allergy to food. Like some people die from peanuts, some people get hives, some people get, like, we have these things that affect us, but it's just really about how you process it and how you kind of navigate through it.
Absolutely.
Something that I noticed about myself. I've always noticed it about myself, but lately it's been starting to bother me. And I don't know how to classify it in an insecure category, but maybe I'll tell you. and then you can classify it or help me kind of figure out how to classify that.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's like a being liked thing. I don't know, but I'm sure we'll figure it out together. So something that I do, and I realize that I've always done it, but for some reason, and like for the last maybe 6 months or so, the fact that I do it, I hate it, right? So if I am out with a group, or if I am out with a person, or if I have an extended long conversation with someone, I always, after the conversation, am playing back everything in my head that we
Mhm.
spoke about and wondering how I came off and wondering if I said this or wondering if I said that or wondering if that person feels differently about me now after the conversation. And wonder, like, it's like this thing that I know I've always done it. And I think it's always just been like in my brain, just a part of my personality. But nowadays I don't like it. And I'm questioning, like, why do I care, like, how I came off, or why do I care? And it'll be like my friend. It happens with you. It happens with everyone. Like, there's not a human being that I interact with that doesn't happen, where I'm always like kind of mulling over the conversation for at least 24
Mhm.
hours. And always kind of like, especially if it's in a group setting and there are new people, and I'm like, oh, did I do this, or did I say that, or do they think I'm this now, or did I sound like that, or oh fuck, did I say something offensive, or did I come off bougie? Like, I just like go through this motion of questioning how liked I am after interaction with me, and how I come off, and what the perception of someone is of me
Ah, okay. Okay.
after spending time, to the point where sometimes I won't want to spend time, or I won't want to talk, for wanting to avoid that altogether.
Oh, wow. So I feel like,
To like go in like my little like torture chamber of like what's like, because it's just like, oh my God, if I talk to them, then I'm gonna feel like this after. I usually, again, it's about how much it controls me. I usually can push through it, and I can usually like kind of process my way out of it, but it usually takes me a couple days. Like, it's not immediate. Like, it takes me a hot minute.
oh, wow. And so why is it? Are you afraid of what their response to who you are will be?
No, because it's people who know. It could be people who know me. It could be you. It could be Janae. It could be anybody. It's not about new people and how they perceive me. It could be anyone. It's just like, after I have especially if it's a lengthy conversation, or after I spend an hour or two of intimate time with someone, I always leave the conversation wondering, like,
Really?
wondering what they were thinking about the conversation, what they were thinking about me, what they were thinking about what I said. I don't know what that is. I can't recall a time in my life that I haven't been that way. I'm just now kind of realizing that that might be weird. I was like, but maybe everybody does it. Is it just me? I don't know.
Um, I mean, no, I usually don't. I think because I've gotten to the point in place and space where I'm so committed to being who I am.
Yeah.
If you rock with it, you rock with it. If you don't, that's okay. Like, I'm not for everybody, and that's okay.
So maybe it just ties into my insecurity of just like caring what people think. But is that an insecurity? Is that classified as an insecurity?
I feel like it can be if it, I feel like an insecurity is something that blocks you from living in the fullness of an experience, right?
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so, and that's my definition. I don't think that's Webster's. We can look up what Webster says,
Right.
but that's my definition. My definition of an insecurity is something that blocks you from fully experiencing what that should be because of how you internalize what is happening around you,
Got
right?
it. I agree. Yeah.
So that's my definition of an insecurity. So if you are in a place and space to where you're worried about how someone feels or takes what it is that you say, for me, I know that 9 times out of 10, now there is that little one time, but most of the time I'm coming out and from a place of love or from a place of enjoyment, and I know that I mean no harm and I'm not trying to harm you. So for me, I'm moving with the energy of, oh, we finna have a good time.
And I'm moving with that too. It's not in the moment, it's after. It's
Mhm.
never while it's happening. I'm pretty good at being present and like enjoying the moment and knowing my intentions are good. It's always like I'm driving home after a dinner date with a girlfriend or with anybody, and I'm just like in my head about everything that was said. Like, I don't know, it's really strange. And I'm like, I don't know if it's about being caring about what people think, because it can be my friend, it could be my husband, it could be my sister, it could be my mom. it could really be anybody. It's just something. So that's one thing that I do that I don't know what that's about, but I think it's rooted in some kind of an insecurity where I feel like maybe who I am is not something. I don't know.
It's not okay to be who you
Yeah, like maybe I'm too blunt sometimes. Maybe it's that same thing about being too much.
Mm.
Or like, so that definitely comes up for me sometimes. Right now, I'm dealing with some physical insecurities after having a baby. I really am struggling with accepting my new body. I've started working extra hard on it, so that is kind of building my confidence back. But I feel really insecure about like my stomach. I feel really insecure about these back butter rolls that's back there. I feel really insecure just about my weight. Like I just have never been this size ever in my life. I've always been athletic. I've always worked out. I've always been a very petite, small person. I'm 5'2", so that could just give you some context. And it's just very difficult to see my body in this way and not know exactly how to get it to a place that I can really accept it again. But I'm more open and up for the challenge than I was before. And because I'm more of a problem solver in my brain, like if I see something, it's like, okay, what are we going to do about it? And what I decided to do about it is actually helping me work through the insecurity. So that's something where if there's something that you're insecure about, there's a lot of power in trying to figure out what it is. Like, how do I say it in a better way? Like, okay, if you are insecure about the way you dress, it's something that you can like decide if it's an insecurity you can fix or not. You know what I'm saying? Like some insecurities that we like let plague us are really easy fixes, but we're just like, again, swimming in insecure waters and we can't see that, hey, this is an easy fix. Like figure out and maybe find a person that maybe you like how they dress and see if they can help guide you or get some ideas from them. Find out where they shop. Like for me, it's like when I'm feeling super insecure about something, I like to try to figure out why I feel that way and how quickly I can get out of feeling that way. And if it's something I can actually fix and solve sooner than later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a thing too, that I always like to tell people, once you identify like, hey, this is a way that I'm feeling, or this feeling creeps up into these particular parts of my life, and you get figure out whether or not, okay, can I do something about this insecurity? You also too want to get around people who can support you in this new way or this new move that you're now making, like with these new decisions. Because if you have, let's say, an insecurity to where you feel you don't dress well, but even when you try, you're around people who laugh at you trying.
Ooh, true.
Or let's say you have an insecurity about, I don't know, let's say the way you look or your skin or whatever.
Yeah.
You need to get around people who won't make you feel bad about the things that you're trying to help it. So if
such a good point. Yeah, I love that. It's like who you're around too that could be feeding that insecurity and cutting you and making you bleed into those insecure waters, and people smell that. That's such a good point, that the people you're around sometimes can be speaking to and feeding those insecurities and even making them bigger monsters than they really are. A lot of times it really is just not that serious. Like if you have fucked up teeth, like sis, go get some braces. They have Invisalign. There are payment plans. Like a lot of times it's just like there are solutions to the things that you are just like riddled with that can, like, for instance, I used to have really, really bad skin in like my early 20s, I want to say. Like I was like one of those people, like in school, in high school, like my skin was fine. And then like for some reason I got like a lot of adult acne. So from like in my early to mid 20s, I had a lot of insecurities about my skin. I learned to do damn good makeup. So unless you really knew me, you didn't know that. But I just stopped liking how much having to cover up and having to put makeup on every time I left the house, going to the grocery store, going to get gas, going to the mailbox. Like I would have to like put a little something on. I remember one time I was sleeping over like a guy's house, and I like after my shower, I like went in the bathroom and like touched up any dark spots I had, and like, because I was so insecure about my skin, and I was like, oh, I don't want him to wake up and be like, damn, she looks like shit for real without her makeup. And I just stopped liking being this girl that didn't feel beautiful in her own skin without makeup.
Yeah.
So I had tried different things. And sometimes your insecurity is something that's not a quick fix. And you get so frustrated with trying that you give up. But the answer may be 5 more tries down the road. So if you can keep trying and keep searching for answers, you might end up fixing that insecurity, but you give up half the time, you know? And I had gotten to a point where I was like, oh my God, like nothing works. Like I've gone to this dermatologist, I've gotten this chemical peel, I've used Proactive, I've used anything you could think of. I had used it at some point, and I was just like, my skin just hates me. And maybe one day I'll grow out of it. And you know, and we get like that, we get content, like, oh, this is just how I am. This is just how I'm supposed to be. This is just me. And then one day I was just like, you know, I really want to fix this. So I found this other dermatologist, and he prescribed me like a very aggressive and slightly risky. It's like, it was like a generic version of Accutane.
Oh, okay.
Which is like really intense, but I had really bad acne and I was just over it. And it required me to go get a blood test every month for like 8 months. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Every single month I had to go to one of those like Quest Diagnostics, Lab Quest, whatever. I had to go get a blood test because the medication can like do some kind of damage to your liver or something. So every month they had to check to make sure that your vitals and everything were good. Like it's that intense. So every month I was getting stuck with needles, taking this nasty ass pill that sometimes it made me nauseous. If I took it, I couldn't drink within a certain amount of hours. Like it was a lot out of me to go through this process. But afterwards, my skin was 100% clear. And that was years ago. And I still have really good skin. And now I know how to manage my skin in a different way. And I don't have to wear makeup all the time. And I feel great now about my skin. It's not an insecurity anymore. So you know what I mean? It's like it took a little bit more out of me to fix it than I wanted to do. But after kind of pushing through it, I feel better about that part of myself.
Yeah, and here's the thing too: insecurities aren't always outward facing, right?
Sure.
Like you can have insecurities about maybe this is going to be maybe TMI, but hey, this is a female podcast. You may have insecurities about how you smell, right? There are some women whose pH, you know,
it's off.
It's real off.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, but if you know your pH is off, then you might not be able to have an abundance of sexual partners. Like
you're sensitive down there, like prone to like BV, yeast infections. Like you have to adjust your lifestyle if that's how you are. That's so true.
Yeah, you may not be able to, eat all the fried foods because it does something different in your pores. Like your sweat is different, and it's definitely can be an insecurity. Like I grew up around girls who their scent was just very pungent. And so it made them super insecure. But for some of them, it also made them very promiscuous because they wanted people to like them. The only way they felt like they could be liked with that pungency that they had was to give themselves away. And so what you have to take a look at, there's usually something that we can do about most of these insecurities. If it's an insecurity about, maybe you learn things slower. People do not believe me when I say it takes me much longer to do things than it does most people because I have ADD. If it takes a normal person 30 minutes, it's going to take me at least an hour, sometimes an hour and a half to get things done. I move slower, no matter how intelligent.
That you can be that honest with yourself, because I think that's a big part of the problem too, is that we're not honest with ourselves. Like I'm always like, if everybody has haters, who are the haters? Like who's the person that's like, yeah, I've been a hater since 99? Like, or if everybody's so smart, like, and they're dealing with all these dumbasses, like who's the dumbass? Like if everybody, like at some point it's like, who's the population of people that everybody's talking about that apparently don't exist because no one wants to own that. Like, hey, I'm not super smart. I may not be this thing. I may not be that thing, and just kind of owning that so you can make the adjustments to feel good about it. Like if you know, like, hey, my brain's going to process things a little bit slower. Those are my genetics. That's just how my brain works. Then I know like, hey, instead of giving myself 30 minutes to do it, I'm going to give myself 2 hours. That takes away so much of the frustration as opposed to you trying to keep convincing yourself that you're something that you're not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The whole like, oh, well, like if an insecurity of yours is, and it sounds funny, but I really do mean this. If you have an insecurity of you usually choose dumb partners because it makes you feel better about yourself. The insecurity is you feel shitty about yourself, so you choose people who you feel are less than you, so that you can feel a little better. Then what you want to do is, okay, what therapist can I go to? What types of therapy can I do? Whether it's tapping, whether it's, whatever types of modalities you decide to do, so that I can work on me enough so that I choose better, or so that I can feel better about myself, so that I don't even allow certain things to happen. Because like I said, an insecurity to me means that it affects your full experience. You are not able to experience something fully because of the internalized emotions, thoughts, and feelings that you have around a certain subject or a certain thing. And like you were saying, at some point, we've got to tell ourselves the truth, like, hey, this is an insecurity of mine, and the result of having this insecurity is an experience that I do not like. So I am going to take it upon myself to Google. You don't have to know it, but you can Google what are some ways you can overcome overthinking, like, or what are some of the ways you can overcome, self-doubt or not feeling lovable. Like, at some point, it can't just be everybody else's fault. At some point, it has to be, okay, I am going to do one thing or something to help change what my experience will be. At some point, we've got to be honest.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is for me a lot, is like, I really dislike feeling a certain way. Like, I'm not as concerned about other people in that sense. It's like, I care about what people think, but then in some ways it's like, it's more important for me to feel a certain way. So that's why it's like, in the moment, I'm very present, I'm having a good time, but it's that car ride home. So what I started doing was just saying, like, everything I say is fine. And if they had a problem with something I say, they need to communicate that with me. And as long as they're not communicating that with me, that they're offended or that they're hurt, then I'm just gonna keep it moving. So that's the self-talk I've been having with myself to try to work my way through that. Like, these are people who love me. I'm sure they're used to me and the crazy shit that comes out of my mouth. Again, if they're offended, they will communicate. And if they're not communicating, then we just may need to evaluate the level of communication that we have. Like, I can't care so much about what you think that I'm not going to want to be around you because I don't want to deal with the anxiety. Like, I was watching this TV show and the guy said that the reason why he is always by himself is because he's so deeply insecure. And he doesn't like the process that his body has to go through to be around people, because he's so in his head and he's so insecure that it is literally uncomfortable for him to interact with people. So he is alone. Like, huh? Like, like, so it's just how it shows up for us, where there are people who are insecure, where their entire life is modeled around their insecurities, and everything that they do and say is about them being insecure. And then some of us just have insecurities. Overall, I don't feel like an insecure person. I really love a lot of things about myself, actually. But I definitely have my things where I do care what people think. I think too much. And I sometimes can be insecure about certain abilities that I have to do things. Like, I can do something really well, but I'm insecure about it. So I never feel like I'm doing it well enough or good enough. Like, it always feels like I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, if I'm not like great at it, I'm bad at it. I don't have like a middle. Like, if I'm not an expert, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, I don't.
Okay.
My brain works because I'm naturally an extremist. I'm hot or cold. It's black or white. I'm not good with the middle. I'm not good with the gray areas. I'm not good with balance. I love it or I hate it. I like you. I don't really I'm not like that. Like, oh, I like her. It's like, no, I love her. Like, she's great, or I'm not fucking with her.
Yeah. I think too, a lot of times, no, but I really like that. And I feel like a lot of times too, what people don't understand is when you have an insecurity, just take the time to figure out, A, how does this affect every other part of my life? B, where does it stem from? In that, is it something that is inherent that I've always had, or is it something that I picked up along the way?
I think I was taught through upbringing and childhood.
Yes. Yes, is it something that I was taught? Because once you're clear on like where the insecurity came from, then you position and put yourself in a much better place and space to where like, okay, now I can work through what it means so that in this picture of mine, there are speckles and dots of places where I don't feel as secure. However, because I am committed to ensuring that I do live a full life and I have a fuller experience, I get to now work through or work on these things because I've gotten a really good idea of, hey, where's this coming from? Because once you figured out, all right, where is it coming from? How is it showing up? What is happening with all the things? Then it's, okay, what things can I put in place to help overcome this so that it doesn't become the frame on your picture and it's speckles. It's
Yeah,
dots. It's a brush stroke.
yeah. And the other thing is, you always say this: what you focus on grows. So as opposed to focus on what's wrong with you, focus on what's right with you. And I know that seems so simple, but a lot of us are not doing that. A lot of us are only like harping on and like dwelling on everything that we're doing wrong all the time. But it's important to also like speak to yourself the way you speak to your friends and the people that you love. Hopefully you're speaking to them kindly. But that self-talk and how you talk to yourself is going to kind of determine just how your insecurities show up and how often. So it's like, in moments where I'm starting to like, a lot of us, when we're walking into a room, our insecurities start creeping up our leg, right? Like,
Right.
oh, do I look okay? How's my outfit? How's my hair? Oh, like she's pretty. Oh, we all have those little moments, I think, but our brains process information so fast that some of us stay there, right? And now we're like shrinking in the room because we feel our insecurities. And some of us are like, I'm still the baddest bitch in here. Let's go. Right? It's just like, for me, I try not to lean on my looks in rooms because I always feel like there will be someone prettier. There'll be someone with a bigger ass. There'll be someone with bigger boobs, someone with a better smile, someone with better hair. Physical things and placing your laurels and your anchor in your physical attributes is a really good way for your insecurities to really creep up and harass the hell out of you. What I try to do when I walk into a room is I feel like I'm probably like the most interesting person here. I just always feel like that. Like, I'm really funny. I'm going to say something like I can talk to anybody. Like, nobody's going to make me feel like I can't hold a conversation with them. So for me, it's like stepping into a room, my mindset is like, I'm really dope and I'm really great to talk to. So I know that you can talk to me and I'm confident in my ability to hold and carry a conversation. Like, I just place my confidence in things that nobody can take away from me and things that I just know for sure about myself without a shadow of a doubt. But if I'm going in there placing it on my face, honey, I'm in Miami. I mean, the pretty bitches are everywhere, And yeah, I feel confident in my physical appearance as well. But I'm just saying, like, if you can learn to anchor your confidence in things that are deeper and more real to who you truly are, as opposed to what you appear to be and what you look like, it'll take you a further distance and it'll be a lot harder to shake you.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, absolutely. And one of the things too, for those of us who are dealing with, issues around like body and how it looks, how it shows up. I had a child 13 years ago, and my body, people looking at like, oh my God, you look so great. And it's like, with clothes on, I know how it looks without the clothes on. And for me, that was a huge insecurity because I had a natural six pack before her. And then now having a stomach that had stretch marks and extra skin and all these things, I was just done for. And so I was like, well, I don't plan on going under the knife. No disrespect to those who do go under the knife. It's just, I don't like getting shots. So the very thought of you having to put me to needles, shots, all the things, it takes me into, I go into conniptions. Listen, in the beginning of COVID, when we had to like get the swab up our nose and do all the things, listen, y'all, it was a shit show for me. So I'm not good at that. And so what I decided to start doing, I was like, well, let me just dress up this body that I have. I invested in all types of high waist everything, high waist lingerie, high waist panties, high waist swimsuits. I was like, no, I am going to find a way to feel good about this new body.
Yes.
So for those of us who do have those insecurities around your body, hell, even with, when it was time for me to be intimate with my partners, I would just make sure the lights were dim. I would light up candles, turn on some good music. It was a whole vibe. So I didn't have to Listen,
Distract them from the body.
distract. So I could focus, because if I'm so focused on how much I don't like about myself, then I could never have a full sexual experience either, because I'm so focused on how much I don't like my body, right?
Yeah.
So it always begins and ends with us. Now, these are just a few, right, of the insecurities that we talked about in this conversation. But we want to hear from y'all. Like, what are some of y'all insecurities? How do y'all work through a lot of these
Yeah.
insecurities?
How do they show up? How do you deal with them? Because we all have them. And I think the more open we are and the more vulnerable we are, we just realize that we're all, I love it. We're all so much more alike than we are different. And insecurities is one of those unifying elements of humanity that really brings us together, because a lot of us are insecure about a lot of the same things. We know someone that's insecure about it, and we love them and we want them not to feel that way about themselves. So whenever you're feeling really down and feeling really insecure, just think about like how you would talk to your really good friend and how you would encourage her and how you would try to help her through her own insecurities, and be that friend to yourself. Be that great sister and friend to you first, so that you can work through your insecurities, so you're not bleeding all over people. So you're not the person that's feeding the insecurity of somebody else. Sometimes our insecurities, and I think this shows up a lot in family dynamics, our insecurities will kind of place a lot of self-doubt in people's minds. Like, oh, wow, I did that 10 years ago and that didn't work for me. Or, oh, because all men ain't shit. Or, oh, and your own trauma and your own insecurities, you're projecting them onto other people. And you're now making them insecure about something that they wouldn't have been insecure about otherwise. So let's all just try to be more conscious. And the next time that we talk about this, hopefully we can maybe have some feedback from you guys, because I'm sure we can talk about insecurities for 19 episodes, a whole season, 18 episodes, a whole season. So we want to thank you guys. We hope that this was helpful. Please reach out to us on @TriggeredAFPC, so that we can hear about your insecurities, and maybe we can give you some tips and some advice as to how to move through them. You can follow me on Instagram @TheDaniBordeaux, BOURDEAU. Where can we follow you, Alechia?
Stay connected with me all over Beyonce's internet @Alechia Reese, ALECHIA. Make sure you guys are subscribed on Apple. We have a subscription on Patreon, which shows you behind the scenes, all full videos for those mini episodes. We cannot wait to continue these conversations with you. And if you have not yet, make sure you also join us at triggeredafevents.com, because we have some really amazing events that are coming up. We cannot wait to see you live and live in color. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.